Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. Continual watching beyond this point may result in terminal face palming and a complete loss of wokeness. You have been warned.
Welcome everybody. We have a fun episode tonight, and I got to tell you something. It is a drinking episode. Yes, we're actually drinking tonight because we're talking about actually one of my favorite subjects, Star Trek. I actually am a huge Star Trek fan, so already the debate's over. Star Trek wins, Star Wars loses. I'm sorry, go home. But we are going to be discussing some interesting aspects of various shows relating to Star Wars and Star Trek, as far as alien politics and alien ethical things and all kinds of just whatever stuff. But anyways, we got a lot of people in here. I have kind of done the format where it kind of will be the only way I can do it. So if I apologize, I'm on screen twice. It's the only way I can really do it through the Hangouts. But let me know you guys can hear me. Everything's fine. I do got a fan, or not, well, I got an AC in the background, but I ain't turning it off because 100 freaking degrees here and suffer through it. But anyways, a couple people I have here. I have the one and the only, the Undoomed of Doomery, the I don't know what the hell to make of him, the SJOX. I don't know what the hell he is now. Do you still do SJW stuff? Not really.
Not really.
Yeah, not really. I don't know. You introduce yourself because I don't know what the hell you're doing any longer, man. I just don't.
No, I'm just some idiot on the internet. You know, nothing special about me.
You know, look, you got some pretty good hangouts, man. I gotta admit, every time you stream and I pop over there, it's usually pretty interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do some streams sometimes.
You do.
Been pretty busy lately, though, with my day job, so not so much.
Is that why you probably don't stream as much as you use or make videos? Because I know videos take a very long time to make.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Just been really busy at work.
Just writing the fame for the last, I don't know how long you've been doing YouTube.
Yeah, probably 7 years.
Yeah, you've been a long time, man. Definitely a long time. And we also got 82 Productions in here.
Good evening, everybody. This is weird. I'm not used to being on this channel. What the hell happened?
It's been a while. It's been a while. I remember you. I think you didn't you do a debate roulette one time in the Non-Sequitur Show?
Did that once. Did a discussion with a flurf another time, and tried to get someone to explain why the idea of requiring photo ID at the voting booth is a bad idea.
I remember that one. I got flack for that. I got flack for that particular episode. I get flack for every episode, but yeah, I definitely remember that episode. And we also got Leon in here, and Leon is somebody who streams the U, obviously, on your channel. When you do, is it what you do, Kumar, or what? Or the HOTV weekly?
There are two shows that happen. Well, we try to go weekly, but like Undoomed, work gets in the way quite often, unfortunately. Both of them take place Saturday nights now. First one being Kanar with Damar, which is our sci-fi specific show, which started out as myself and an entire bridge crew between Leon here, Thoughts by Jay Brown, BM Furball, and Geostrever. That is the original core crew of that show.
That's a good crew, man.
And we get some fluctuation based on schedules and availability. And then after a short break for usually dinner, we then go into Veterans Talk Weekly, where no topic is off limits, no opinion is off limits. Hell, I'm surprised last week's show is even still publicly visible.
Yeah, you guys have some. Well, you have some interesting topics over there as well. Anyways, let's kind of dive into this. Undoomed, I know he just got off work. It's his Friday night. He's going to chill with us and kind of put his 2 cents in. He might get changed back on that because depending on his opinion. Because I've listened to him talk about this particular topic, which is the reason why I invited him on, because he has some pretty interesting hot takes. But anyways, let's kind of dive into it because, as you know, I'm a big Star Trek fan. Star Wars I didn't get much into. I remember in 1978, I believe it was, literally the day it came out, I went to go see it. And it was on a big screen, and I was I think I was I had to be 8 years old. And I thought it was good. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was good. But nothing compared to the awe and wonder that I experienced watching the original series of Star Trek. And I was telling these guys before you came in on Doom that my next door neighbor, her name was Charlene, Charlene Polite, and she was married to a guy named Raymond Burride, and they're both actors, and he was in many different shows, Knight Rider, and he was in the movie Andromeda Strain, and she happened to be in an episode of Star Trek called The Cloudminders. She played the head troglodyte, and I literally grew up next to these people. I knew they were, we were over at their house quite frequently, and I was thinking, man, I could have been in Star Trek, I had been like more older or whatever, because I had an in. I had somebody that actually knew connections to the whatever in Burbank who did the production. Who was it? Paramount? It was Paramount, wasn't it?
Yeah, Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount, which would have been cool. I would have been famous, and screw you all. But anyways, but there's been a lot of changes in Star Trek recently. There has been Picard came out. There's been Strange New Worlds, which I have not watched yet. There has been Discovery. There's been the Next Generation. And so I kind of want to get your opinion on Doomed of what the hell you think happened to Star Trek, because I like the original series the best. I mean, there's just no comparative. But what do you think of like the direction that has gone from the newer stuff compared to the older stuff? And then we get into more interesting stuff as politics and stuff like that.
The big problem I see, especially with Picard, is that the writers are just too stupid to write allegories. If they want to have something about a social issue, and that's something that Star Trek has always done, and it's done good, they have to literally go back in time to our time and show the thing literally. That's all they can do, because they're bad writers. They don't know how to
screw it up.
Yeah, even then they screw it up. But they don't seem to understand this thing where you can sort of whisper in someone's ear and sort of plant a seed in their mind and thereby slowly change their mind about things. They just have to beat you over the head with it. Yeah,
in your face. And they're not the only ones that are doing that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I've seen it as well. The original series was basically there's many ways that they brought up social issues, and it wasn't spectacularly in your face, but it was there subtly enough and obviously clear enough where they were trying to send a message. I mean, the first on-screen interracial kiss, so to speak, was Captain Kirk and Uhura, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't like having sex or anything. It was just a kiss, and it caused outrage. But they did it in such a way that it was provocative, right? Mm-hmm. And George Takei, who who's openly gay, if I'm not mistaken, it was Gene Roddenberry that had told him, look, the society's just not quite ready to have a gay character on here, but he was, when I understand, all for it. But they had brought these things in very, very, subtly, instead of like over the top, like in Discover. Remember the character that was the whole, with the Trill? It was the Trill, wasn't it? And gender.
Which one are you talking? Dax from DS9?
No, the original Dax was great. That was great. But,
or are you talking in TNG when they first introduced the Trill?
Well, that was good too. Both of them were bringing up those kinds of social things. But no, in Discovery, I think it was, they had the one girl that was
the first non-binary character ever in Trek. No, it fucking wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah, so you know what I'm referring to?
But we're talking about Star Trek.
I'm not sure how
we shouldn't be bringing up Discovery.
Sorry?
We're talking about Star Trek. We shouldn't be bringing up Discovery.
Would you think it's better
that's true.
Do you think it shouldn't be in canon? Discovery shouldn't be in canon?
I don't see how it is.
Okay, hang on. Let me get into a bit of headcanon and theory crafting here, which has kept me from wanting to commit seppuku when any of the newer series comes up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've already introduced multiple timelines and alternate universes. Ignore what the studio has said about Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and Picard. Follow me here for a moment. In the movie Star Trek First Contact, what do we get? We get a time travel plot where the Enterprise E follows the Borg back to just a couple days before First Contact.
Mhm.
There are going to be ripples from that event. At the end of the movie, the Enterprise E is seen going back into a temporal disturbance to go back, presumably, to the original timeline. They might have, but we never actually see it happen on screen, so it's speculation at this point. But this is where it gets fun. After that movie, we end up with the series Star Trek Enterprise, which then references frozen, thought to be dead and deactivated Borg on Earth, pre-Federation. So from that point on, you have an alternate timeline that is Star Trek Enterprise and everything that happens after. So any deviations from what was established canonically as history up to that point can be played with, can be tinkered
So what's
with.
canonical now? Is it just from Jonathan Archer and the Enterprise on?
You still have alternate timelines. You still have your the original series, animated series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and then the TNG crew movies, and also the TOS crew movies. That is still the prime timeline. But because of the events of Star Trek First Contact, Star Trek Enterprise, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and Picard are in an alternate timeline all of their own, or the latter three are alternates of that alternate timeline. Same thing with the Kelvin timeline, is an alternate off of that alternate timeline. And when you look at the visuals, when you look at how they're presenting the tech, the uniforms, and how just the characters interact and behave, it makes far more sense for it to be that alternate of an alternate setting, as opposed to, no, this is prime timeline. No, this is the original universe. Stop trying to piss in my face and tell me that it's raining.
Yeah, I thought to me, like the original series, Next Generation, and then probably Deep Space Nine were the three most canonical, as far as like adherence to the original, as far as being in the same timeline. I mean, you wouldn't put DS9 in a separate timeline, would you?
No, DS9 is still original prime timeline.
Yeah.
They've had their time travel events, but we are shown them going back to the original, both in the episodes Trial and Tribulations and
I love that one. That was great.
Yeah. Well, and that is how you pay homage to the original, to your show's history, while still keeping it fresh and still moving on with your own story.
That's actually the next episode of Non-Sequiturs called Trial and Tribulations, actually, on Sunday.
But you need to have good, competent writers in order to do that.
Yeah, and that's the main problem.
Well, do you think that the writing has reflected society? I mean, if you look at like Doctor Who, which we'll do a whole different episode on one of these days, but the writing for Doctor Who sucks. I mean, the last season was horrific. I mean, it was just shit. It was straight up crap. And it was like,
even objectively, you can say that. Look at the viewership numbers of Doctor Who. It's gone down the tank.
I don't follow Doctor Who, so I don't know anything about that.
You've never seen any of the original?
I think I've seen like one episode like 10 years ago or something.
See, I think you would like Doctor Who, the reversion. When the Doctors kind of came back as new and improved. It was like 2000. When was it? The first one. It's been quite some time.
I saw it when they rebooted it. And I was like, this isn't for me.
Well, it was really good.
It seemed like it seemed too much like a children's show to me.
Oh no.
Doctor Who actually did kind of start out at that. It started not so much as a children's show, but as a family show. Prior to the short hiatus that they had on the TV side of things, it was supposed to be that they are traveling through time, but they're still being as historically accurate as they can be. But after the relaunch, when we got Eccleston as the Doctor, they went a little more freelance with the story. It was still enjoyable for the entire family, but you started having a little more appeasement for the adults in there, which is why we ended up getting spin-offs like Torchwood,
Yeah,
which was
Torchwood was good.
entirely an adult show.
Torchwood was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah, no, I like Michael Simmons. I like David Tennant. My original doctor was Tom Baker. But I mean, the point being is the writing, which Jenna Ball had went to crap with the latest season. And I mean, I like Jodie Whittaker. I do think she's an amazing actress, but it just sucked for her. So you think that kind of happened with Star Trek, that they were like looking which way the wind was blowing as far as like societal things, and go, oh, we're going to be, super progressive and super, in your face about this stuff, which again was not the original intent of the series. The original intent of the series was to show these things in a way that wasn't supposed to be like super in your face, to show how absurd things were, like racism and bigotry and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think in the original series and all throughout, up to probably Enterprise, they were trying to show it in a way that would actually change your mind. Now they're just in your face and screaming at you.
Yeah, and don't you think that's kind of a huge distinction to be made? If you have a series where you want people to change their minds organically, you want them to really ponder the issues, you want to think about them and have them come to the realization, yeah, you know what, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe hating somebody because of their nationality, or hating somebody their ethnicity, because of their ethnicity, geez, or their sexual preference is wrong, right? And so that was just kind of an organic feel that people had to go, yeah, these things, we should probably as a society start changing these things. Now it's just like everything is just so much in your face. It comes across as contrived. It comes across as forced. And I think as a whole, people don't like that. Yeah, preachy.
Yeah.
And that's where actually we did an episode of Kanar Tamar where we brought that up, and we talked about Star Trek being political, it being a political commentary show, and it being a social commentary show, which it always has been.
Well, I mean, they were very heavily in the original series socialist to some degree. I mean, look, they had replicators, so people didn't have to worry about food or replication of anything. So housing was an issue, and food was an issue, products was an issue. Basically, they had free synthahol. I mean, they could get all the alcohol you want, although it's synthahol.
Yeah, but at the same time, looking at the political structure of everything, it is actually very easy to have an entirely or mostly socialist setup and construct when you don't have to worry about resources. When your necessities are met without worry, without fail, it is really easy to then work on the self and do that exploration of the mind and furthering the knowledge of the species.
Oh yeah, so, it's kind of like how rich people are never obese. Well, never, but usually, statistically, they're less likely to be obese because it's a lot easier to work on yourself, like you say, if you have money. And if you, in the Star Trek universe, they don't have money, but they have infinite resources and they can replicate anything. And so it is, in effect, like having infinite money.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of women will have a lot of procedures to make themselves, more attractive, which costs, up hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not a matter of genetics; it's a matter of, social status and finances for a lot of people. But I think you're right. When you don't have to worry about resources, it does change the entire dynamic of things.
Yeah.
But the first series was exploration, right? The first series was dedicated to exploring strange new worlds, and then promoting Federation guidelines and things of that nature. But the later series didn't seem to be like Star Trek Next Generation. How was that about exploration? They had families on board, they had kids on board.
Well, so when you look at the Enterprise D, it truly was an ambassadorship. It was what you think of when the term flagship is thrown about.
Sure.
It's your prize piece. That's actually why that segment of ship design and ethos of the Federation is viewed upon as the golden age, because although more accurately might be the Gilded Age, in that they've had very high ideals. They've achieved a lot and got to a point where they could get comfortable. They could get complacent in certain aspects, because up until Next Generation, you can look at the Federation ships as an allegory of the US Navy, in that while the ships aren't solely a military fighting purpose, they can defend themselves, they can defend territory, but they're also going out and exploring. similar to Age of Sail type stuff, where it was the Royal Navy, it was the Navy, that the ocean-based military arm of a country that was actually doing your international exploration.
Yeah, but they don't have kids on those kind of ships, right? I mean,
and that's where the complacency and the thought process came in with TNG, is that we've expanded so much, our technology has advanced so much, we're doing these longer missions. Let's think about the people, their livelihood, and their mental well-being. Because think in TOS, you had the medical staff, but you didn't have a dedicated counselor purely for the mental health and helping with negotiations and the diplomacy side of things. But
Now,
on the Enterprise D, you did.
I must point out that I never liked the idea of them having children on the Enterprise D.
Oh no, too much of a risk.
It seems, it does seem odd to me as from a moral point of perspective. I mean, it's completely from a moral point of view. You're going out in space to areas that you have no idea what you're getting yourself in for. Now, again, if you're just traveling between, us, Vulcan or whatever, and places that you're familiarized with and things of that nature, and not hostile areas in the Alpha Quadrant, then yeah, no big deal. But they were going into the Delta Quadrant. They were going in other places. I'm not talking about the Gamma Quadrant, because if I'm not mistaken, the only reason they got to the Gamma Quadrant was because Q took them there. Or was that?
I mean the Delta Quadrant.
Well, it's
the Delta Quadrant. Yeah, the Delta Quadrant. That's what it was.
Voyager got taken to the Delta Quadrant because of the caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
In Deep Space Nine, they ended up in the Gamma Quadrant because they found the only stable wormhole, and it was because of another race of aliens that actually manifested it. Because, well, we really like this one planet, and they see us as gods. Okay, great. We're gonna play into that. We're okay with that.
Yeah, they lived inside the wormhole.
Wait, you mean we have to actually do the duties of a god if we're gonna do it? The hell is that?
Deep Space Nine was one of the best writers I've ever seen. But for writing, Deep Space Nine, bar none, was better than any of the original series. I mean, but yeah, I always had a problem with the thing of, hey, having kids on there. Yes, I get it for the mental well-being, and I think adding Deanna Troi as a beta, that could have empathy and things like, she's basically an enhanced, better-looking version of Spock. Was not a bad idea. I think that was actually good at her. But I got to tell you, when I first watched The Next Generation, and I remember this very vividly. I was thinking to myself, I'm going to give it a shot. And I don't know what year it was. What was it, 80-something, 84? I don't remember. I think I was in high school. But I remember watching that first, that Farpoint, whatever it was from Farpoint. And I was thinking to myself, I don't think I'm going to get into this. You know why? Because I was so used to the original series that I was like, okay, this is such a change from it. Am I going to be able to, appreciate it? And I was like, I don't know if it's going to get popular or not, and I don't think it even really reached its momentum until the second season. Then I was like, this is getting good.
It started off horribly.
It started off pretty bad, did it not? It wasn't my imagination on that, because I didn't like the pilot that much.
No.
Most of your panned and absolutely laughable episodes in The Next Generation was during season 1. There are only a handful that happened afterwards. And even then, it came down to actually mostly the writing, because for a while there, they didn't know what to do with Troy as a character, and it showed on screen.
Yeah, but it was also the fact that I forget who said this, but it was they had all these leftover scripts from the 60s that were going to be on TOS. So basically it was scripts written in the 60s by people who grew up in the 30s. So they were terribly out of date.
Yeah. No, I think I've heard that as well. It was 1987, by the way. So I was still in high school. That's when DNG came out. But you're right. They were trying to use antiquated scripts that instead of just, being new, right?
Yeah. But that hurt season 1 terribly. I mean, they had the most racist episode ever made in Trek.
Oh God! Code of Honor.
Was that with the Klingons?
No.
Which one was that?
This is the one where the ruler of a planet, which I swear they just went to the movie Coming to America for the costumes.
Yeah, I remember
that one. Yeah, where
they're all African dressed and.
Yeah, that episode. Oh, how did that even get to air?
That was probably something written in the 60s,
Oh, yeah.
That would make a lot more sense that it was written
Yeah.
way before.
But then again, you have to give them kudos for at least doing something that was at least somewhat unique, despite being racist as fuck.
But you don't think that they recognized it being racist back then as hindsight, so to speak, right?
I don't think so. I mean, looking at the episode, look at it from the perspective of just the episode itself. What parts of it would you identify as being racist if you didn't have the moral basis that we have today?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But I
Just
mean,
looking at it,
maybe they're just trying to do a cultural thing, and just for some reason it didn't work out. Because I mean, they all have addressed various cultures. I mean, Roman cultures. Remember the one?
I guess it was just the fact that because it was black people, they had to dress them like a tribe in Africa.
Yeah,
that's probably that's
was
what
over
rubbed
the top.
people the wrong way.
Yeah, that was probably a
like,
bad idea.
okay, so these space aliens, just because they're black, they have to dress like Earth people in Africa. Okay,
Very stereotypical. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's where it went off the rails, was not so much the storyline itself and what it was actually, the moral side that it was going down, but the presentation. The presentation is what really failed that episode.
yeah, but the story was pretty bad too, even though it may not have been intended as being racist, but it was a bad story.
Yeah,
it's a boring story.
Well, look at like Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, from the original series, where they had half black, half white, and then the ones that they hated were the opposite. And when you watch, you didn't even notice the difference. You're like, well, what's kind of the difference between these two guys? But they touched each other, then they annihilated each other. That was done in a very, very well done way, I think. The makeup was shitty,
Right.
but it was Star Trek. But I mean, as far as conceptualization, that was done effectively, I think.
Yeah, but they had different writers back then. And that was a strength. You can have a bad episode if you're episodic. Like, whatever, next one will be better.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have the same people doing all the stuff. It's always Akiva Goldsmith or Goldman or whatever his name is. They write everything. They direct half of the episodes and they produce everything. It's like they're starting to fall into the trap of Rick Berman. Like, he was the head of Star Trek for, I don't know, like 15 years at least. And it's just the same guy doing the same thing. You need more people in there.
It can work if you have a strong enough and populous enough writer's room to go with it. And that's where Deep Space Nine and Voyager, the two series that were entirely under Berman's control, actually flourished, because while you had Berman sitting at the top shelf of everything, overlooking the entire franchise at that point, you had enough competent writers that you were getting a lot of that variety and interplay, and you were still managing things similar to the prior two series between the original series and TNG. But nowadays, it's when you trim down that creative staff and then also start putting in other factors into your hiring choices that are not merit-based, you reap what you sow.
Yeah, and it's also a factor of having this season-long arcs. You can't just take in a script. When you hear a good script, like TNG, they have certain scripts that were actually written by fans, and they were sent in, and they were like, "Oh, this is a great script. Let's buy that," and they made the episode. They can't do that on a show that's like just one long episode from start to finish.
Do you like the more episodic ones? Do you like? I like shows that have an overall arc. Right.
I prefer episodic over arcs, definitely, and it's fine to have an arc like in DS9. That helped the series.
Okay, yes, I love that kind of arc.
But every episode still had a beginning and an end and a sort of a problem that they had to solve this week. It may work towards the Dominion War and all that, but it's an episode. But this is the problem of the week.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how you can get those different issues in, and you can have one writer come up with a brilliant idea and then, okay, let's go with that. They can't do that with these planned out.
Do you think Discovery suffers from that? Because Discovery is just all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
All over the place.
I mean, there's no episode of Discovery that you can go, oh, that was a great episode. Because it's all just woven into each other.
It's bad. I mean, it's just straight bad writing, I think. And it's a shame, too, because it probably had potential. But
Yeah, but
I'm just
what are
not
you
a
going
fan.
to what are you going to say? You can't just pick out one episode and say that was a great episode, because everything is just flowing into the next episode, coming from the previous episode. There's no episodes. It's just they cut and then they make it an episode.
Yeah.
There is a bit of commentary from Kurtzman himself when talking about season 1 of Picard that was rather telling.
Okay.
That actually explained a lot of the decisions that they've made with the franchise. They were trying to re-emulate Game of Thrones type of fandom and fan fervor within Star Trek.
Okay.
And that's where, if you notice in both Discovery and in Picard, things got darker, things got more real, things got harsher. You finally had blood on the screen in a way that was more than they had ever done before, even despite going into depth of an all-out war like they did in DS9.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because they're trying to emulate other shows from other genres without realizing what it was that actually made those other shows successful.
Right.
And it comes down to telling a good story. First and foremost, you have to be able to tell a good story if you want the viewership. Otherwise, you're going to end up with robotic clowns watching, just regurgitating whatever talking points you tell them, despite being able to objectively show them, no, here's season 1 of the show you're saying that you loved so much and is so great, losing in ratings to reruns of a phone-in voting game show.
Why don't you think they listen to any of those people that are telling them, look, we're not interested in this type of show? I mean, the ratings have been going down almost across the board on all the episodes, on almost all the different series. Now, I haven't seen anything back yet on Stranger Worlds yet, because it's just came out. I haven't watched anything on it. I don't know what the ratings are like on it. But as far as the others,
I saw the episode. I saw the episode yesterday.
What'd you think? I mean, no spoilers, because I haven't seen it yet. But what'd you think?
Surprisingly, I would say tentatively, it has promise, with about 30 asterisks after it.
everything has these little if this, if that, right?
Yeah. I mean, what I like about it is that it seems to be episodic. So if they can keep that up and not devolve into just these season-long arcs and shit, that's good. That's a point for them. And I also like that they, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I don't think so. They end the episode with a Picard speech.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? Which I think is very, very good. However, the writers are not clever enough to actually write a Picard speech, so it's stupid. But they tried, right? So they get a point for trying. Yeah. They get a point for trying. So, yeah, it's got promise. I don't like the fact that they feel this compulsive need to throw in contemporary stuff. Like, you see on the bridge some Starfleet officer go, "Oh, that's so cool!" Like, shut the fuck up. Yeah,
that. From the beginning of Discovery, that was something that actually just completely went against what has already been established, and it just shows that they don't care about what's already been established. Mm-hmm. We can do it better. A prime freaking example from another franchise: the beginning of Batwoman, season 1, with Ruby Rose as the titular character.
I love her, so don't diss on her. I love
oh,
her.
No. Okay. She was...
I love her.
This isn't anything to do about her. Okay. This is actually a line that they put in the show. When she was talking about the Batsuit, yeah, it's good, but it'll be great when it fits a woman. Mm. They don't care about telling a good story. They don't care about furthering an established franchise. No, we're going to take that and we're going to make it better because of our ideology. That's what they're doing. They're doing it to Star Wars. They're doing it in comic books. They're doing it in Star Trek. Anything that has had major cultural appeal from a prolonged franchise across all media is getting this attention. Look at what they're doing with Tolkien and the Rings of Power that's going to be released here soon on Amazon. They have a descendant of a dwarf without a beard.
That's sacrilege.
And a completely different skin color than
no, you can't
her
have,
direct lineage.
That's sacrilege. That would be considered to be...
It's all because infusing identity politics and the political narrative from the real world that they are trying to browbeat across everyone, using these franchises as the avenue to do it.
There's one thing to be atypical as far as, like nonconformist and things of that nature, but when it comes to dwarvian beards, that's not an option. I mean, that a dwarf has a beard. That's who a dwarf is to them.
Well, and it was established in the source material from Tolkien. Gimli said it in the books. There's the rumor that there are no dwarven women, and it's because they all have beards, men and women alike.
Yep.
Well, all of this really is something that you can tell that the people right now who are in charge of these franchises are the kinds of people who put everything in regards to identity before character. It's not about your merits. It's not about who you are. Everything is about what you are. Are you a woman? Are you black? Are you party or rather part of a certain political party? Do you have this sexuality? Are you this? Are you that? It's not about who you are. It's about what you are.
Yeah, it's about the properties of the individual, or what they would, some kind of like essentialism of some kind. What makes you this is based upon certain properties you have based upon your skin color or gender. I think a lot of people that turns off, especially when it comes to science fiction. That's not what science fiction was ever about. In fact, just the opposite. It was supposed to express yourself. Because I grew up reading books like from Robert A. Heinlein and Isaac Asimov and those kinds of writers, and they would have been appalled, I think, at watching some of the stuff just turn into full-on identity politics. Now, they weren't, obviously these active, people in back then as it was today, but that wasn't what science fiction was about. It was about opening your mind and, expressing yourself individually, not being a part of a collective, not being a Borg,
Well, and that's something that actually, if you haven't seen it yet, Steve, I recommend you watch it. The Foundation series, which
I haven't watched it. I've read the books, the Foundation series. Yeah, I haven't read.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah, because here's the thing.
Psychohistorians.
It's not good.
Really?
No.
What do you think?
It's a typical Apple product. It's just gloss, and obviously they have all the money in the world, so they can make it look good.
Well, I mean that series was huge, man. In fact, I read it in high school, and I got to tell you, it was a very difficult read. I mean, anybody who's read the Foundation series knows it's not an easy read, but it was definitely extremely well written. But you think maybe because it was so complex that is how you're gonna put it all into
similar to Dune. Because of the breadth and scale of it, it really is difficult to change media.
Yeah,
going from book to screen.
I read all the Dunes as well back then.
But here's the thing where I do have to disagree with you on this one, Undoomed. Given that hurdle of all the series, of all the media that I've seen that has faced a similar challenge, the Foundation series that Apple did actually still managed to stay true to the core story despite the changes they made.
I'll check it out. I don't usually listen to Undoomed anyways, so who does, right? But I will try to check it out, Leon.
I haven't read the Foundation series, so I don't know how it holds up to that. That's not my criticism. My criticism is that it's boring.
Oh no, the series, the books aren't exactly. There's a long, drawn-out read. I mean, it's kind of like reading a lot of the Lord of the Rings. It can be really good sometimes. And it feels very small.
It feels very small. I always imagined, from what I've heard through osmosis about the books, that it's this huge galactic thing, right? But it's just a couple of sets. You know, it feels very small.
Yeah, well, yeah, the entire galactic civilization and the psychohistorians would try to relate history to psychoanalysis and controlling of the masses.
And like Discovery, there's a shitload of crying.
Well, here's something that actually differs when it comes to, say, the other franchises today, as opposed to Foundation. Foundation tried to keep the spirit of the Foundation book series and just repackage it. Whereas the other series right now have been trying to, well, gut the franchise, take their own shit, just stuff it full of it, and then hope that people will buy it anyway. If you look at what you have in Foundation, or rather in Foundation, you have a lot of grandeur where it's needed. Say, for example, a scene such as the palace grounds. There's a lot of ground there. You can see the city, as in on Trandor. There's a fuck ton of people there. But there's people where it's needed. Everything here is where it's needed. The set itself is a background character. Whereas the people, the actual characters, and Leo, the whatever the fuck it is, and one of the 4 or 5 there are around, they are all good characters. They're actually portrayed as being proper characters. You can see things as Rage, you can see things as Harry Seldon. All of these things have actually been made so that they have a manner of depth, instead of them just being, say, for example, with, what's her face? The one that plays the main character now.
I didn't see it, so I don't know.
Jared, main character. Galen, that's the one, or Gale. That one, she is a black female. They don't play any at all upon the black part. And the female part is essentially just in order to further the story further on, once you actually get to quote-unquote modern day. So it's something where they have made the story, or they've fit the characters in the story in order to actually make it make sense, in order to finish the puzzle, or rather than Dune, where they just said, oh yeah, but Leah Kynes is a black female now, or black woman now, because
we need to tick that box.
Yeah, because she has so many ties now to her daughter, and we see fuck all of it, where there's nothing there that actually ties them together at all.
Yeah, well, the Dune series was, again, one of those series that unless you read the books, the movies don't make a hell of a lot of sense. I remember watching the original one with Sting in a drive-through, and I had no idea what the hell was going on.
That one still had a lot more of the actual story elements than the current one.
I read the books afterwards, and I actually finally understood what was kind of going on with the mothers and the blue eyes and drinking of the sandworm. The sandworm was basically would die, and his last breath would be taken, and then if you drank this or whatever it was, water of life. Yeah, if you drank the water of life, all men died. He was like the only man that actually drank it and survived, become a mother reverend. And the storyline made some sense for the spice and stuff like that. But watching the movie back then, it's like, what the hell is freaking going on here? You know, it just makes no sense whatsoever, man.
Oh, Steve, I put a challenge out there that no one has even attempted to try to fulfill. Explain the actual core storyline of Dune using only material on screen in the latest movie.
I don't think I've seen the latest movie yet. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
What do you mean only material?
So you cannot reference anything that was in the books that was not also on screen. Using just the movie that was released last year, tell me the story.
Was it not very faithful to the
no
books? Okay.
No, it had more visuals correct, but they still missed major elements, like what Leon was talking about before in Foundation, with the use of massive throngs of people. There were a couple scenes in the latest movie that actually called for that in the books, from the books in Dune. And they had maybe 20, 25 people behind a fence at the edge at the far reaches of the screen.
They couldn't even see the people.
Yeah, there were a lot of the nuanced plot elements that they could have easily put in visually that they just straight up chose not to. And then scenes where they had a large group of people, it was superfluous. It didn't mean anything. It didn't add anything
So
to
I
it.
take it you didn't like it?
If they could improve the storytelling closer to what we got from the 1984 version with some of the visuals and how they did some of the technology and such in the new one and combined the two movies, then it would have been a much better movie. But as the current one stands on its own, they sacrificed too much of the story for pretty visuals.
What'd you think of the?
Well,
go ahead.
No, I just think that movie has been growing on me. When I saw it, I thought it was fine. But then I thought about it, and it's like, yeah, this is very unique. I mean, all we get is fucking CGI bouncing around and shit fests with explosions and, superheroes doing whatever they want, not being in any way in danger of being hurt. It's so boring to have a science fiction show or a movie that is actually taking its time and allowing things to be slow and to take its time is very refreshing. It kind of reminds me of older Star Trek movies.
And I completely agree with you on that point. But they did that at the sacrifice of better laying the groundwork of the story they are trying to tell. If they are even trying to tell the same story from the book.
I've never read the books, so for me it was like I see what I see, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah, here's one thing though. We have to differentiate between the two different kinds of slow here. We have slow as in a tactful walk, and we have slow as in someone who's completely and utterly fucking pissed, who's trying to get somewhere. And they're doing so by trying to steady themselves against the ground while the ground keeps moving. Dune is the latter. They are trying to reference things that in the book are explained clear as day, and they completely fuck up the meaning of it in the movie. And just to take an example of that, I have to spoil one minor segment of the movie when they're talking about palm trees. Outside of the palace where, Vetraides' family lives when they actually get to Arrakis, there are palm trees out in the courtyard. The same scene referenced earlier with the lack of people. This courtyard is supposed to be chock full of pilgrims. And they are supposed to look up at the palm trees. Some of them will look up at them with disgust, some with hope. But the hope that they look at them for will be because they think that maybe some dates will fall down, that they may eat them. In the movie, how this is being described is that, but these palm trees are a hope for Arrakis, for a better future. When in the book, it's described as people are fucking loathing these palm trees because they cost, they add up to, 100 people per day?
One tree was 5 people's worth of water per day just to keep them green.
And water was like the most revered thing of, water and spice, right? Two of the important things that
on Arrakis, water is the most important thing.
Yeah, water's life. Yeah.
Yeah, the Fremen even have water tokens as a marital gift.
Yeah, there's another. I don't know if you ever read it, but there's a book called "Stranger in a Strange Land" by Robert A. Heinlein, where water is the same thing. Water's life. Matter of fact, there's actually a church that actually does exist called, I think it's called the Church of the Everlasting Water or something like that. That's from that book. Great book. I mean, it's probably one of my all-time favorite books. It's "Stranger in a Strange Land," but it's the same principle. Water is life, and when you grope with somebody and you share something with somebody, you share water with them, and that's like the highest thing you could do in that culture, in the Martian culture.
It's something where
You ever read that book? You should, Stranger Strange Land. I highly recommend it. The two things that I can start as far as like sci-fi that I think were the best adaptations that I've ever seen as compared to the books. One was Starship Troopers, just to Heinlein's novel, very, very close to the books. And the other one was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You ever see that movie?
I've seen it, but I don't remember it much.
Yeah, it was pretty close. Now the series was there was actually a series of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, an episodic. Well, it wasn't even episodic; it was an arc series
by BBC.
By BBC, that was brilliant. They were so incredibly faithful to the books. But there was a movie with Zooey Deschanel that came out, and it was pretty good. It was actually pretty faithful to the book.
Yeah, I remember it was pretty funny.
I have to say that when it comes to Starship Troopers and it being close to the book, I can't say that I agree.
Really? When I read the books and then I saw the movies, I'm like, yeah, I kind of remember this part, the whole boot camp stuff, and I don't know, it seemed to be very, very from what I remember from the actual book. Now there was a couple of books afterwards that got a lot more in depth as far as the psychonics and the psychic things with these aliens. But as far as like the original movie, I think that was pretty close.
The sad part about that movie is that it got a bad rep for being propaganda for fascism when it's actually satire.
Yes,
it is.
Yes, that was against that. That was against that.
Yeah.
Yes. Matter of fact, if you want to read a book on that, there was the seventh column, I think it was by Highland, that really gets into that. That was all about anti-fascism. But that movie was great. Yeah. Real quick, I'm just trying to catch. I've not been ignoring the live chat. I really haven't been. I apologize. It just this is so fascinating to me. I love these types of nerding out. Somebody did say though that this is one of the best nerd streams we've had. So they said this stream out as out nerded Non Sequitur's last most nerdy stream ever about computers. Well done, Steve. I mean that sincerely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like nerding out, man. Nerding out's fun. Let's kind of like change up a little bit because we have gone almost an hour on Star Trek. We haven't talked about Star Wars at all yet. And I'm just going to lay it out there. Look, sorry, Paula Gia. I'm just not a huge Star Wars fan. I like the first one, which has been the fourth one, I guess. New Hope. That was great. Obviously, that to me is Star Wars. The first three never should have happened. I don't know what the hell's going on. I do this day. I swear to God, somebody could say, "Hey, Steve, I'll pay you $1,000 if you can tell me the plot of first, second, or third movie, or even the titles." Phantom Menace, I know, is one of them. But I couldn't tell you. I have no idea what the hell is going on in any of them. Right.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. But what do you guys think? I mean, am I wrong?
I was completely obsessed with Star Wars when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the thing. It's more of a children's thing. And when you grow up, Star Trek was more interesting to me.
Yeah, I've always liked Star Trek, even as a kid. But,
yeah, I did too. But when I was a kid, it wasn't a competition. We didn't have the internet, so it wasn't like you had to have these flame wars about Star Trek versus Star Wars. But I like both of them.
You don't remember AOL?
It is well, it is very possible to be fans of both. But what you have to realize is the story archetypes they're trying to tell are completely different. Whereas Star Trek has been that social and political commentary through the veil of a futuristic society looking at these issues. Star Wars was first and foremost a spaghetti western epic in space.
Right.
It wasn't some huge avenue for deep philosophical conversation. It was pure entertainment.
Oh yeah. And it was great. I loved it. And I still love the first three movies. Well, like you said, fourth through six.
Right. Yeah, me too. Huge fan.
They're awesome. And I was so obsessed with that when I was a kid that when I was like 8 or whatever, I can't remember exactly, I tried to convince my father that I must have a name change to Darth Vader.
Was that the character you liked the most? You like Darth Vader the most?
Yeah.
I was all into Princess Leia, but whatever. That's just me. No, I mean, I do remember very vividly watching the very first one, which was the fourth one, The New Hope, and I was like, this was great. I was entertained by it, and that to me is a hallmark of a good movie. Entertainment, simple as that. I was 8 years old, like I'm entertained by this, and I remember like remember the scene where they were in the garbage disposal and the walls were closing in and the monsters were flowing around. I was scared, not like like petrified scared, but I was like, on my.
You were into it.
I was
you were
totally
sucked
into
in.
that. I was.
You were
totally
sucked
into that.
into the setting.
Yes.
And that is something that actually I will give the latest iteration of Dune 4 with a lot of the visuals. It did pull you into the world from that visual aspect. Whereas in Star Wars, especially the original trilogy and parts of the prequel trilogy, brought you into that world a bit more, not just because of the visuals and setting, but how the characters were behaving, how everything was actually being laid out and put together.
Well, they had something that we don't seem to get anymore, and that is likable characters.
Yeah, developed likable characters.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of these characters in not just the Star Wars or Star Trek franchises, but in a lot of series. The characters are just not engaging. They're not developed. They're not of interest. They don't, if some of these characters, when they die off, you're like, whatever. There's no emotional investment to them at all.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I like shows where there's an emotional investment to the character.
I think they're scared to death of having some levity. And that's kind of one of the things that can make you like a character, right? Just have them crack a joke sometimes, but you can't have that.
Well, here's another thing too, and this is where we'll throw in animated stuff on this too. The longer run Star Wars Clone Wars series, they introduced Ahsoka Tano. The writers, the creators, the showrunner introduced this character knowing the character was going to be hated from the outset. But then by the end of the series, by time the story caught up to the events that were the beginning of episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the character was one of the most loved because the character actually had growth, actually had a progression, actually was a part of the story. Ahsoka Tano.
What the hell is Ahsoka Tano? I don't even know.
Ahsoka Tano was introduced as a young Padawan to Anakin Skywalker.
How do you spell this? I don't know what the hell this is.
Oh. Okay.
Let me just pull up a picture.
Was it Ahsoka Tano?
Ahsoka Tano.
Oh, okay. Okay, the one with the
Twi'lek.
Okay. The only reason I even know who that would be is from the Mandalorian.
Yes,
that's it. Right. That's the only reason. And I didn't even know when I watched Mandalorian. I didn't know she was in the original series. I didn't think of it.
No, the first three. That character wasn't introduced in any of the movies. Was introduced in the animated TV show.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, that took place between episodes 2 and 3.
Because I didn't remember her.
Not the short mini. Yeah, because it was in that TV series that the character was introduced and then progressed.
That's why.
And the character was disliked because of the way she behaved, because of how she came in as this really pompous, really bordering on egotistical, the way she behaved upon meeting Obi-Wan and Anakin. But then as the show progressed, as her character progressed, and as the character failed and learned from those mistakes and faced hardships, the character grew. And as a result of that, the character became one of, if not the most respected and beloved characters by the fandom by the end of that series.
I liked her on The Mandalorian. It was Rosario Dawson that played her, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In The Mandalorian, she's a pale shadow of what she is in the Clone Wars.
And I still don't know what the hell the Clone Wars is about. I don't understand any of that. I don't understand the politics. I don't understand the the only thing I do remember is when they had the Senate and there was like the ETs. It's three ETs sitting in the Senate. I was like, that's cute.
I think the best.
Was that in the wrong movie? I don't even know.
No, there's a series called The Clone Wars.
Yes. So Yeah, so you have
what
the
was the-
live action movie.
Okay, so there was. Okay, so let's go in order. The Phantom Menace was the first one, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
the
episode
next one is Attack of the Clones,
Attack of
not
the
the
Clones.
Clone Wars.
Oh, the Attack of the
There's
Clones. Okay,
Attack of the Clones is a movie. The Clone Wars is a TV series.
that's why I have no idea because I never watched any of that. That's the anime series, right? Okay.
And there was an animated series with the Clone Wars name as a TV movie that plays into it as well. But that's where something that Star Wars has embraced that Star Trek never did was the beta canon and other avenues for the material to tell the story of the entire universe. George Lucas embraced the novels after the first trilogy, after the original trilogy. He embraced and actually accepted everything that is, oh God, what do they call it now? Legends.
Yeah.
But before
Expanded
it was,
universe.
it was originally known as the Expanded Universe, and that's where you get the Star Wars novelizations and Return of the Jedi. But
And that's kind of where Star Wars went wrong. When they decanonized that universe,
and yet still ripped plot elements from it.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy came out and said, well, this is not going to be canon anymore. We're decommissioning that. And then in the same interview, or maybe, I'm not sure that was the same interview, but thereafter, she started complaining about, well, we don't have the kind of source material that Marvel has to draw from. Like, bitch, what the fuck? You had all these books. You had thousands and thousands of books, but you decanonized them. What kind of idiotic thing is that?
Well, and then, and separate from that, actually probably fucking icing on that cake, you have the story that they set up in episode 7 in The Force Awakens, which was not as much of a rewrite of A New Hope as the last sci-fi reboot that J.J. Abrams did, but still pretty damn close. But you opened a door to a wonderful avenue for character development and actual storytelling by just following Finn, the former stormtrooper. And what do they do by the end of it? Nah, screw him. We like this pretty girl here.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really huge mistake. Finn was clearly the most interesting character in the new trilogy, and they just said, fuck it. No, we're not going to deal with him.
So much better. Yeah. Well, you know, as a kid, I remember I thought that I didn't know that they were humans. Again, I was a kid when I watched the movie. I thought they were robots. I remember thinking that the stormtroopers were robots. I didn't know they were humans.
That was intentional.
Oh,
that was intentional. Yeah.
Really?
Because
I did not know this.
Part of the mythos is that the stormtroopers weren't the clone, but they were still essentially brainwashed, just strictly following orders.
Yeah, they weren't like Cybermen in Doctor Who. They were
kind of, not necessarily augmented, but definitely this inhumane fighting force that just would crush whatever they were told to go against.
I mean, he was clearly inspired by the Nazis.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they were probably kind of like low-level troops that were just, like you say, indoctrinated and just followed orders blindly.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
They're not low-level.
And also, I think that George Lucas definitely felt that it was an advantage that people thought of them as robots, because then he could get around censors. It didn't matter how many of those guys he shot if people thought they were robots.
That's a good point. Even though the stormtroopers can't shoot for the life, they can't shoot worth shit. Which by the way, I think is one of the funniest things about Star Wars. So there's little things in there that, I don't know if it was ever intentional, but became basically almost like canon, like stormtroopers can't hit shit, or they're just clumsy, like the scene where the guy, the stormtrooper hit his head, and that was not his head. Yeah, and that was clearly not planned, but it was so great that they left it in. And I think that was maybe a slight against that fact that, like you said, it was clearly to reference, Nazis, and it's like the bungling, they're stormtroopers elite, but they suck.
Well, and even then, the stormtroopers, as were portrayed and seen by the populace, wasn't just your run-of-the-mill gaggle of just purely indoctrinated foot soldiers, they were still elite troops. It's just for plot convenience that they missed. Because look at what they did to the Sandcrawler and the Jawas.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of contradictory. Ben Kenobi says that only stormtroopers could be this accurate, and then they are not really that accurate.
Right? No, not the stormtroopers, but look at the TIE fighters. With the TIE fighters, they're supposed to be the elite of the elite. I mean, they go flying in a fucking testicle with solar panels on without shields. They are supposed to be essentially one of the highest positions in the fighting forces there that you can hope for. But even then, the stormtroopers, as is described in, the books that are now not canon anymore because of some mouse, in those, you can actually see the stormtroopers being the elite. They are the Kremlin of the fighting forces or the ground fighting forces. And that's something that comes up after the fall of the Empire. Because they're losing stormtroopers. They're losing their elite. They have to go in with these low-level troops that are essentially just... They get a canvas list and they can just hope for the best.
One of my mods says they also were trainers, and she can't unsee that now that somebody pointed out to her. Was that because they just wanted to had to use tennis shoes? I mean, here's the thing I can't understand about Star Wars. This is a galaxy far, far, far away that I guess, is actually in our real universe. I guess later on they kind of decided to make that happen. I don't know. But here's a civilization that's so akin to ours, that's ancient compared to ours, yet they have a lot of similarities. I don't know. Well, I always had a hard time with disbelief with that.
Well, and that's where I put Star Wars towards a fantasy aspect of genre and world building as well. And part of that is actually that what has become of that opening line on screen in the movie a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the way that it's actually been told, and I'm not sure how much of this was actually from the beginning from Lucas, but the actual narrators of the story that we're supposed to be seeing all of this through is the will of the through the veil of the Force. You're actually essentially looking back through time at all of these events through the Force, and the guardians of the will of the Force are the ones telling the story.
Is it looking back in time, or is it something that's
Yes.
actually happening real?
Both.
I mean, like, right? Okay, I'm putting aside the physics. Okay, but simultaneity, right? It's actually happening at the same exact time as us, but it's so far away that it's going to be, obviously, by the time it reaches us, it's in the past.
Wow. I mean, I think it's much simpler than that. George Lucas wanted to show that this is fantasy. So what he would have normally put in there would be once upon a time. Right.
Okay.
But he couldn't do that. Yeah. He couldn't do that because
Disney.
that's, that'd be too on the nose.
Well, there's actually, have you guys ever watched Once Upon a Time by the Disney? Great series, by the way. But yeah, that's kind of would have been in your face. This is fabulistic, right? This is,
yeah. So he tried to come up with a science fiction equivalence of it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
You might have a point there.
And that's where that whole thing of the point of view of it has come out probably within the last 10 years. That's why it's like, I'm not sure how much of it was actually at the beginning, but it's still that if you keep that point of view aspect in mind in how the story is being told, you're not only looking through time, you are looking through location. But because of the way relativistic physics actually works in this world, it could be happening right now.
Right, that's what I was kind of thinking, that it's kind of it's happening, so to speak, exactly as we are watching it in real time. It just happens to be so far away, kind of thing,
Yes, and April has it right from frickin' Family Guy's parodies of it a long, long time ago, but still somehow in the future.
Well, I mean, eternal block theory, and if you don't subscribe to presentism, then maybe, I guess, right? I mean, B theory of time, who the hell knows, right? What do you guys think of the narrative of like okay, first of all, putting aside the midichlorian things, I think that was jumping the shark. I hated that. But as far as like the Force, because the Force is supposed to be this, mysterious supernatural type presence, which still never really fully explained. But Do you think that that it actually was maybe like the Sith were kind of the good guys in some ways, that are so balanced that the Jedi and the Sith, there's really no difference between them. It's just how they used the Force.
Well, in this case, are you asking about everything in Force use, or are you asking about just the Jedi and the Sith?
Both, maybe, either or. I mean, what would be the distinctions as far as like the Jedi and the Sith, or opposed to the Force being used different ways?
I mean, there was this video that was making the rounds like probably 4 years ago or something, that the Jedi are actually the bad guys of the story.
Yeah, well, same thing with Star Trek. The Federation was the bad guys, and you know,
they made meta commentary in Deep Space Nine about that a number of times.
I mean, the Federation is pretty imperialistic, pretty authoritarian, pretty expansionist. There's a lot of things that can be said about the Federation, sure.
No, but looking at it in the Star Wars universe, you have the two main factions that we know about, and that's the Jedi and the Sith. I find it really hard to say that one is definitely better than the other, since both of these can be used in really shitty ways.
Or beneficial ways, maybe.
But you have the different factions other than that have their own way to use the Force, their own way to utilize all this. And in that case, do they fall into what could be counted as Jedi, or do they fall into what could be counted as Sith?
Well, I mean, Jedi are kind of they are kind of like Judge Dredd. They just go around cutting people's arms off all the time without a trial. So there's that.
Wasn't there a neutral version? Wasn't there
the gray Jedi?
Was it the gray Jedi? Yeah, something I remember. Some along the lines of they talked about that in the Mandalorian, I think.
Well, but even then, that was actually more of a newer thing that actually started coming about because some of the games where you would I'm blanking on the name of the game, but it's the MMORPG for Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic,
yeah.
And that whole line of things where you can make your character and then build your character in whatever direction you want, and depending on what you did would lean you towards one side or the other. And that if you were truly balanced, you would be neither light nor dark side, and that's where that gray Jedi in the middle started coming about.
So is the Force something you think is just metaphysically neutral?
Yes.
Okay.
It never made any sense to me that you would restore the balance of the Force by destroying one side.
And that's where the philosophy of the factions comes into play. Because let's look at technology. Technology in and of itself is neither good nor bad.
How it's used. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's true. But technology is not some supernatural metaphysical force. I mean, but yeah, I know. I get you.
What's the difference? Yeah. What's the difference between magic and sufficiently superior technology?
Yeah, well, I mean, but the force was somehow reduced to biology, which I think was one of the worst mistakes they made. I can't get behind that. It makes no sense to me that it reduced some kind of biological consistency of people based on how many these little particulars.
I guess there's a reason why they never bring that up again.
It was bad and stupid. That's
because it fell flat. Well, I understand where it came from initially, and wanting to have some sort of explanation like that in there to explain why some people could do it and the majority couldn't, and why certain people of that group that could do it better than others. But you could have come up with something else.
By the way, is the Knights of the Old Republic worth playing? It's free for like the first 50 levels, and I heard there's a lot of content on it. I never got into it.
Knights of the Republic 1 and 2 are, as Jay mentions in the chat, the single-player games.
Yeah, the single player.
The Old Republic is the multiplayer game.
Yeah, that's what Jay Brown would have said. The Old Republic is the massively multiple online role-playing game. But that's separate. But as far as like the Knights of the Old Republic, the original version, which is free, up to like 50 levels, something like that. No, that's a game, right? That's a standalone game, isn't it?
Knights of the Old Republic is the single-player game. The Old Republic is the
MMO. Which is free to play for up to a certain level, right?
And that's where both of them have that similar character growth and progression towards light side and dark side, that your actions determine ultimately where your character ends up, which is based on the decisions you make.
Can you
But
can you still play Knights of the Old Republic?
Jay does, I don't.
Okay, so it's still playable.
Yes.
Where would you get it from? 'Cause I mean, I mean, I was looking at that once, and I think it was on Steam.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably would be through a source like that. But to April in the chat, where she said, if what I understand is correct, there can't be Jedi without Sith, and there are always two Sith, a master and an apprentice.
I just blasted.
Yes, but no.
I just blasted the outside. I found it. It was on Steam. I played one of the videos. Yeah, it's $10 on Steam, which isn't too bad. But I thought that it was free for some reason. I thought that they were giving the first one away.
Yeah,
there can be Jedi without Sith, and vice versa.
They're
the main issue is really that.
Are they intricately linked like that way? They're like you can't extricate one from the other.
It's not like when you look at the yin yang, you can't have one side without the other for unity to be there. It is theoretically possible to still have light side users, even if you were to wipe out the entirety of the dark side. Because it's not an inherent duality that must be there.
But this is really like you're looking at a spectrum, as in an entire spectrum. So you have the entire color spectrum. And out of that, you're only taking black and white and ignoring everything else. That's really the issue here. Because when you look at it, the Jedi and the philosophy is one of, well, pacifism, which can in turn turn into, well, wholesale slaughter because they don't care, I guess.
Yeah, is it though? I mean, is it more like, hey, we're pacifists, but if you don't agree with us, we're going to destroy you?
Well,
that's not what they do, though.
That's certainly what it comes across as, you know.
Agree with me.
But that's not really what they do. The reason that they do that shit, well, the way that you see it in, well, the movies now, is because the Jedi have become part of the New Republic, or the Republic. They are seen as an enforcer of the Republic, which to them is, okay, Republic is peace and order, so therefore we're going to defend the Force, and in by extension there, the Republic. They didn't even see that they had the largest rot inside the Republic itself, because they didn't really find it plausible that that could just sneak up on them. That's the main issue with the Jedi. They see things as... they're complacent in how they see things. They don't really try to root things out. They see things as black and white most of the time. Whereas if you see something like the Sith are absolute. The Sith are...
there's no gray with the Sith. The Sith, they think very, very black and white.
Yeah, but they're the same black and white and the same absolute as the Jedi. It's just in different paths. A Sith isn't necessarily evil, the same way that a Jedi isn't necessarily good. Just look at what's his fucking face. The guy in the Clone Wars who killed all of his own fucking clone troops because he despised them.
Oh, was that the Boba Fett's dad?
Plo Koon.
No, not Plo Koon. Prell.
Yeah.
Prell or some shit like that. Yeah. He killed a fuck ton of his own clone troops because he saw them as an abomination upon the Force. He saw them as being vermin. He was just detested by them. And therefore he saw no issues in taking their lives because, you know, they have no use, they have no meaning.
They're just clones.
Yeah. And then looking at what's his face with his fucking heart in your head, that guy with the tall forehead, that guy had no issues letting people die because, oh yeah, but we can't intervene here. Whereas you have examples of Sith throughout the history there that have been very humanitarian in a sense. It's just that they haven't been going through the light side to do it or to get there.
Real quick, I want to put a shout out to one of my mods, Little Miss Betty Page, who does a great job modding, and I appreciate all that she does. She has become a patron, and I'm going to shout that out, and I appreciate it. Again, I don't promote my stuff that much. People know that. I suck at it. I will always suck at it, whatever. But I am going to start putting Patreon stuff up. I've done the tiers. I changed them up a little bit just before we went on air today. So if you want to become a patron to the channel, the link is in the video description, and it's also pinned to the live chat. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate it. Got a lot of stuff planned. Got a lot of some big names, I think, coming on. Just got another big name today that might be coming on maybe this Sunday if they're available with Jim Jules, but I think I might have him come on in June. But yeah, so if you want to become a patron, I do appreciate it. But I appreciate my mods. April right now I got out there, and Little Miss Betty Page. Any other mods I got there? Nope, that's it. 2. That's all we really need anyways. But I wanted to throw that out there. But anyways, yeah, continue on. Again, I don't even know who the hell these people are. I know Boba Fett, I know like his dad, and I know they were supposed to be clones, right?
No,
Boba Fett was
Jango Fett was the baseline
for the other clones.
For the clone.
Okay.
Clone army,
yeah.
And the only payment he requested was an unaltered clone that is Boba.
So wait, Boba Fett's a clone of his or a son?
Yes, Boba is a clone that Jango started to raise as his son, which is why he was an unaltered clone, whereas your clone troopers were based off of the same genetic stock, but they had accelerated aging and everything, so they could actually be fucking useful as an army.
Why were they making clones for the army?
Well, do you really want to get into the political intrigue?
That's what we're here for. Right? Just give me the too long didn't read version, because when I'm telling you, I couldn't tell you F all from the first 3 series. I don't remember hardly watching. I remember watching them. I do remember watching them. But I don't know which movie had what. I hated them. As I was watching this, I'm like, this sucks. I don't like this. So maybe I have to rewatch them. Maybe I just need to do a binge watch, and if I do, I'll start from like 1, 2, 3, then go 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9. But I don't think I have the time for that.
No. You can ignore the last 3. That's fine. But this is where getting into the other material and also looking at what George wanted to do with the prequel trilogy, so he says, is actually trying to explain why the events of the Clone Wars had happened. And part of it was actually a lot of political maneuvering and that behind the scenes manipulations from Palpatine, from the senator turned emperor that was this the Sith Lord, the Sith Master, that the Jedi, even though they were face to face with the guy, couldn't tell until it was too late. And because of his minions that he had, he essentially made the separation of the Republic happen so that they would fight each other, while he was on one side and used it to get to the position of Chancellor. He was also making sure the other side stayed in the fight to keep it going. But in order to do that, the Republic would need an army to fight the Separatists. So one of his, who was it, Sifo-Dyas?
Yes.
Was sent to Geonosis to the masters of cloning to begin making the army, what, a decade before the events of Phantom Menace?
Some shit like that.
Yeah, there was actually a long run-up.
I don't know how you guys memorize this stuff. I have a hard enough time even with like actual history, right? I mean, I just don't know the details of a lot of this stuff that some people just find fascinating. I don't know how you do it, to be honest with you. Especially Star Wars. Like I said, I can't get myself to get into the first 3 movies to understand the politics of it.
But they were extremely confusing, that's for sure.
Yes,
and I'm sorry, I'm just
going to have to say it. The acting was shit. I mean, the acting was shit. What's his name? The guy that played Darth Vader was a kid. What the frick his name was?
The voice or the body?
Hayden, whatever his name was.
Oh, Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen. Right. Jesus Christ, that was the most ill typecast I've ever seen in my freaking life.
No, Steve. I have to disagree with you there,
Well, you're
because
wrong.
the casting was good. The problem was the direction from George. George wanted him to come off that way. It wasn't
Why?
that George is. If it wasn't for George Lucas's wife, the original movies would have been complete and utter garbage. The original trilogy was saved in the editing room, which was done by his now ex-wife.
Yeah, and he didn't direct the other two, so he was smart enough to get Irvin Kershner to do Empire, which is of course the best one.
Empire was good. I'm a huge. I am. See, like I said, I liked A New Hope. I liked The Empire Strikes Back. I thought that was great. But it just seems like an entire different series, a entire different movie, a entirely different universe. Watching the first
It
three.
is.
But that's what was so good about it, because it wasn't just a rehash.
No, I get
Like-
that, but there was no continuity there.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that was fine. I think that was a bold move to not just make like Hollywood usually does, like part 2, and we remake the same movie.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's true. But do you think I should give him another shot? Do you think I should watch the first 3 over again? I
You
don't necessarily
should
have to
watch
watch the
the
3 middle
first-
ones over again. I've seen Star Wars 4 times I count.
You should watch the
but-
first 2, watch the Clone Wars,
and then watch the third.
And then
Yes.
episode 3. Yeah, because there was so George even admitted this. Of the story he wanted to tell with the prequel trilogy, a good 75 to 80% of it ended up in Revenge of the Sith.
How many episodes are in the Clone Wars?
7 seasons.
Oh Jesus, come on, man! I can't. I'm not gonna sit through 7
Wait,
seasons.
It's
I'm
7 or is
a
it 8
binge,
now?
I've even put on Twitter today. I'm a binge watcher. I binge watch a lot of series. I mean, there are episodes I do watch of certain series that I happen to like. I happen to like a show called The Rookie, with Nathan Fillion, who I think is one of the best actors of all time. Him in Serenity, and Firefly was just ungodly good.
Who is he?
Fillion,
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan
I will
Fillion.
tell you
Okay.
right now, if I was going to go gay for somebody, he would be it. That man is fucking perfect. I swear to God, he is just. I would go gay for him. But I'm a huge fan of Serenity. But that I watched.
Oh, me too.
Oh God, that movie was just a perfect fucking movie. But I watch that series as it comes out. But other ones I binge watch. I mean, so like 911. I like that series and Lone Star 911. But I'll watch the whole season after it's already done. So I can't sit through 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. That's gonna do
We're
it.
gonna have to try.
I got too many others. I got too many others that I binge watch. I still got to finish binge watching. Like I said, I'm doing 9/11 right now. By the way, it was kind of funny because the last episode I saw on 911 was season 5, and Mark Pellegrino was in it, who played an escaped convict, and I was like, I didn't know Mark was actually in 911. If you guys know him, remember him from Lucifer from Supernatural. He's been on the channel a few times, or my other channel for a few times, but. Yeah, I gotta watch that, and I gotta watch. I really like a show called it's with the alien. My God.
Alan
Ancient
Tudyk?
Aliens.
No, God, no. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
I love laughing at those fuckers.
Oh
That
my
is
God,
awesome.
those guys! I remember reading books like that too, with In Search of Ancient Astronauts and Church of the Gods by von Däniken and Monuments of Mars by Hoagland. I'm like, and at the time I was like, as a kid, I was thinking, oh, it's in a book, has to be true, right? If it's in a book, they can't print this in a book if it's not real. I'm not even kidding. I kind of thought that as a kid. No,
I think the
Have you seen the Bible?
I think the funniest cop out from Däniken is I'm not saying it. There are these many question marks in the book. Did you even read it? And it's like, really? Really?
Yeah.
You're playing the
Däniken was a-
punctuation game?
It was sad, man. No, there's a really good series about this alien that comes down to destroy humanity, and
Resident Alien?
Resident
Yes,
Alien.
Resident Alien.
Love that series. That series freaking is brilliant. Resident Alien. Yes, I'm in the I haven't started season 2 yet, so don't spoil it. But if you guys in the outside, if you haven't seen Resident Alien, first season 1, well worth the watch. Well worth it. Brilliant.
All right,
Yes.
got to watch that then.
Did you guys
I-
like Jared? Did you watch it?
Well,
You like it?
I've seen
I haven't
it.
seen that.
I've seen it. I liked it. But also, when your lead character is played by Alan Tudyk,
Brilliant act. I mean, just
you're kind of starting out on the positive side.
you know what's
things.
so you know what I like about his acting? It is so well done and comedic at the same time that you feel for him. It's like it's like, damn, you want to hate him. You really do when you first, start watching the series. But then it's like, yeah, I like him. Yeah, so what? He wants to kill all humans. I get it. It happens.
He's just a fleshy version of Bender.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I recommend it. So I'll tell you what, because we are going to have to kind of wrap it up some I don't want to take some of Undoomed's tire night up. But what series would? Okay, so Undoomed, I will recommend a series to you, which is Resident Alien, and then what do you guys recommend that I watch besides the Clone Wars?
The Expanse.
Okay, I started watching The Expanse, and I got up to the episode where this guy was being tortured because the gravity, I guess, is so low on one of the Jovian moons that they're just so frail. And it was in this first season, and I just couldn't watch it past that for some reason.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Expanse is one of those shows that actually Kurtzman pointed towards, where it's a darker, grittier sci-fi that has a good fan base and following.
I should probably give it another shot one of these days.
That's when they do it right, and they have their own universe for that. You shouldn't take Star Wars there.
Yeah.
That is a bad influence for Kurtzman, and he should just stop it.
Maybe I'll try to take another look at it. Some series, like I said, I will watch a series and be doing other things. Maybe I miss some of the best parts. I don't know, but it's just The Expanse is something I didn't get into. But
if you,
I admit that it was a little bit hard to get into, but yeah.
It picks up.
Once it gets rolling, you will be sucked in. So if you want something that is going to be a shorter watch that is worthwhile, I'm pretty sure Leon would have recommended this one too. Give Foundation a chance.
I'm going to watch that one. I will do. I will definitely watch Foundation because, again, I think Isaac Asimov was the most prolific sci-fi writer and genius of the generation. I am a huge Isaac Asimov fan. But yes, I'll watch that. Okay, I'll recommend one to you if you haven't seen it. Killjoys.
I could never get into that one.
What? Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I love Killjoys.
It just never caught my attention. I mean, it came out the same time as Dark Matter, and I like that one much more.
Which Dark Matter, like the BBC Dark Matter?
No. Dark Matter is like made by the same people who made Stargate. So I guess it's sort of half American, half Canadian kind of thing.
Which one of the Stargates?
The latter, the TV series.
Yeah.
Which one?
I love the original Stargate. I didn't watch the very, very last thing with the universe. I couldn't get into that. But the original Stargate was on point.
Oh, that's one of my absolute favorites.
On point. I love the movies. Yeah, I love the movie, but the series, the original freaking series of Stargate, absolutely brilliant.
It's so great. They have this self-distance, and they can be self-derogatory, and it's just so funny. It's half comedy, half sci-fi.
Yeah. My favorite episode is when Jack has his own version of Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah, window of opportunity.
I loved all
really
those.
In my backswing.
I would totally rewatch that series over again. Matter of fact, a guy that I actually know was on that series. He played an admiral or something like that. His name is William Devane. He played the president on Stargate. You guys ever heard of him, William Devane?
No. You got a picture?
You look, Google him. I mean, he wasn't a friend of mine or anything, but I mean, I knew him because of somebody who actually is a friend of mine plays golf with him, and he has this restaurant down here called Devane's at one time, and he would come visit him, my friend who played golf with him, and so like I would have to chauffeur William Devane around to get to his. God,
okay. Yeah. I googled him. Yeah. I know who that is.
Yeah, he's really well known down here in the valley.
He was a great president. I loved him. He was like, no, not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. Eureka was good. Yeah, people are like all kinds of shows in the live chat. Eureka was really good. Warehouse 13 was really good. The Orville is absolutely fantastic.
Orville is the spiritual successor to Star Trek.
Yes, I am a huge fan of Orville. Matter of fact, it should be back soon, I think, right?
June.
Yeah, I think so. At least this year. I'm not sure which month.
Beginning of June. Either beginning or end of June. It starts.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you right now, Seth MacFarlane has got to be one of the best writers of all time. The range that he has, yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I do love The Oracle. What else we got here? Anyways, Leon.
April.
Go ahead.
April recommending The Great on, I think that's on Hulu, about Catherine the Great, which is a twisted history or amplified history, however you want to look at it. I watched season 1. I have not seen season 2 yet, but season 1 actually was enjoyable.
What was that about?
And that's coming from a history buff.
She also mentioned.
What was that about?
It's essentially you're going through how Catherine the Great got married to the Emperor of Russia and how she ultimately took control from him and that whole side of things. But it's not an actual like documentary type of history. It's mostly true, and then think about some nice sprinkling of Russian exaggeration in with it.
Okay.
It stars Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult, which actually they do well together in those characters.
Little Miss Betty Page recommends a show, and I'm going to recommend this one to Leon as well. Russian Doll. Now, I have not seen season 2 yet. It came out, I think, last month. So no spoilers for me because I loved Russian Doll. Season 1, brilliant. One of the lead actresses is one of my favorite actresses of all time, Natasha Lyonne. I fell in love with her acting when she made this movie called But I'm a Cheerleader, I think was the name. One of the best actresses, bar none. But if you haven't seen Russian Doll, watch it, Leon. I'm going to recommend that to you. It is so freaking good. It's ridiculous. So she that's from her, though. I mean, my recommendation too, but I mean, Little Miss Betty Page brought that up. Super, super good show.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually heard anything of it.
It's oh my, it's hard to freaking explain. It's just one of those movies you have to, or shows you have to watch and just go with it and don't have any expectation. Because whatever you think you know about it, it's going to be wrong. It's just going to be wrong. I'll tell you that. No spoilers, but yeah, it's just.
What was the name of that show? Maniac, I think. Did you guys see that?
Maniac, no.
I think it was called
ring
Maniac.
a bell.
I think it came out in like, I don't know, 3 years ago or something, 4 years ago. I remember that one was pretty excellent. It's some sort of weird. It's like if the 80s just continued into the future. So we're like we're in the present, but everything looks like in the 80s.
Oh, that'd be
but
hell on earth.
That was just so weird.
Why would you want
it.
that? No.
I loved it, but it had a lot of deep shit in it.
By the way, you're dating yourself now, bro. You're dating yourself in the 80s. The only thing I can bring back about the 80s is the hairstyles. I like the 80s hairstyles, and maybe the spandex.
Oh my god.
Maybe the leg warmers kind of stuff. You know, the big. I mean, I remember the girls in my high school. They had this. I mean, that was the big thing. The bigger the hair, the more popular you were, kind of thing. You know.
Something that we need to bring back from the 80s is cassette futurism. That shit needs to come back.
It is what? Cassette
futurism.
What's that?
Think of essentially the alien aesthetic.
Uh-huh.
Let me see here. Let me just find you some examples.
Oh, Orwell, they say, is on June 2nd. Okay, so it's not that far away. Yeah, it's the summer. Yeah.
No, I couldn't remember the exact day, but I knew it was either the first week or last week of June.
All right, so I got The Expanse, which I'll try to get into. No promises, but I'll try to rewatch that. I got The Foundation, which I will watch, and then Leon, what do you recommend for me to watch?
I would recommend Hellsing Ultimate Abridged.
Yes.
Wait, can you do that in English, please?
Hellsing Ultimate.
Oh, Hellsing.
Abridged.
Is that the guy that hunts vampires?
Well, it's Alucard, yes.
Okay.
But it's the abridged version, which they remove a lot of the dead space there and just add in so much extra fuckery.
Let me look this up. Oh, because I don't.
Hellsing. Abridged.
I put the
is it Hellsing
link to the YouTube thing in the chat.
It's Ultimate Abridged. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have never. I mean, I kind of heard of it, but I have never watched it. So.
It's worth.
It's based on
it.
Hellsing, though. Yeah,
It's twisted in a wonderful way.
Is it like a Black Mirror kind of thing? Which is another good series, by the way.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. I will. Jeff. This looks like something I would watch. By the way, this is a cartoon or not? I'm sorry, anime.
It's anime.
Right.
Yes, but it is worth it.
All right. I'm not a big fan of anime, as you guys know, but I'll check it out. It looks like something I probably would watch, though. Like, I mean, I like Rick and Morty. That's not anime, but I love Rick and Morty. Jay Brown's got to go, by the way, so everybody say goodbye to Jay Brown.
Goodbye, Jay.
Goodbye, Jay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, go ahead.
No, but with Hellsing Abridged, they're taking the series Hellsing, and they're essentially just boiling away everything that isn't needed. And then adding a slight sprinkle of comedy, which is why you get things like, "Hey, police girl," and other things. I think that you'll enjoy it because it's a fucking blast.
There's a show I'll give you for honorable mention. The only reason I did because I happened to look at it the other day, even though I've watched it before. Do you remember a show called Being Human? There was a British version and the North American version.
Vaguely.
It was a vampire, a ghost, and a werewolf living together, roommates.
I remember.
I
thought it was robots.
No.
Okay.
No. That was I know what you're talking about. That was that was good too with the female female lead, and they what was that called? That was a good too. You basically buy these little robots and use them as sex dolls if you want, or what. It wasn't like Westworld, but actually kind of was like Westworld. But what was that?
I don't remember.
That storyline has come up often in
what was the one where you buy the aliens?
Based stuff.
Yeah, there was a series where something about being human or something like that, but it wasn't the one I was talking about. But she was an alien, or excuse me, she was an android, and then she gets raped, and then they basically all the androids get together and basically turn against humans. I don't remember Almost Human. That's what it was. Almost Human. Yeah, that was good too. Yeah, or maybe it was just humans. Humans. Yeah.
I don't remember that one, but the show Being Human, I remember seeing advertisements and
it was good.
A few snippets of it, but I never watched it.
Yeah, it was good. I watched the BBC one. I don't remember much about the American one, but I did watch the BBC version. But anyways, guys, if you guys got any questions, I'm going to wrap this up. Again, we were like going almost on 2 hours. I try to keep these shows down to 2 hours. I think this was amazing, though. I love talking about this kind of stuff and nerding out to get all these different insights on these particular shows. Because, I mean, we all kind of grew up with these shows. Undoomed and I probably more than you two, only because, we're older. But I'm not going to give away his age because I don't know. But he's close. You're getting up there. He knows the 80s.
Okay, I will frame it this way on why I have the exposure and experience with the Star Trek franchise that I do. My dad was one of the original Trekkies. So when TOS was on air, he was in high school as an uber nerd watching the show every time it was on.
I would have been that if I was older.
And so by the time I was born, and the first few movies were already out on VHS, the movies were in my house. I quite literally grew up with Star Trek in the house. TNG was weekly must-watch TV in my house. Not just because of my dad, but also I had a hand in that too.
Star Wars, the original series, was off air by the time I was born. It ran from 97 to 67 to 69. I was born in 70, so it was already off air. It didn't get into syndication until much later. But I mean, I would have been definitely one of those people I would have done the full regalia as a Starfleet officer.
Well, it wasn't so much that. Like, my dad and a couple of his friends growing up when the show was on, they were actually doing the math, checking out the speed and distances that they were going.
Right.
Like for warp drive? Yeah.
Yeah. Then again, Steve, got to remember, My dad was a nuke in the Navy,
Yeah,
kind of makes sense.
I was going to say, I actually have done that. I've done Lorentz contraction formulas and figured out, using time warp and time dilation. It's not high math, by the way. It's not that hard. It's simple algebra. But it's intricate. Where people get thrown off by it is how many steps it actually takes. You cannot take shortcuts in it. It's very interesting to figure out how to get a time dilation. But yeah, math. Dude, I gotta tell you before we end this, I gotta tell you a story. You guys want to hear a story time? Sure you do.
Go for it.
All right, so story time. So yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the day before. We all know Twitter is a cesspool, right? This is unequivocally a stated objective fact. Twitter is a cesspool.
Why do you think I don't have it?
Yeah, no, but I mean, I just use it anymore for just shits and giggles, man. I mean, I don't put any real stock into Twitter any longer, but it's fun. That's it. I don't use it for anything else. People take my tweets and run with it, I guess, and I have no idea because I don't give a shit what happens on other people's timelines. I don't ever go check anybody else out. But I had this guy who, for some reason didn't believe I was a Navy nuke, and he was kept asking me like, what ship were you on? I mean, I'm like, dude, none of your freaking business, because we wasn't even talking about this. We had been talking about some other subject that he just kind of stuck his nose in. But I'm like, why am I obligated to tell you what ship I was on? And he started telling me about being a nuke, and everything he got was wrong, right? And I'm like, because he didn't realize that I was a nuke, and by the way, he wasn't a nuke, but I got out in 93. And so every experience that I have with the military is from 87 to 93, and things change, right? So some of the MOS designations for machinist mate nuke has been changed over the years, which I've recognized, but it didn't apply to me because I wasn't in the Navy, 5 years ago. I was in 25 years ago, but he didn't recognize this. So he was losing his shit. Hashtag stolen valor. He actually tagged like the military Navy Obs Buzzman or whatever, but it was like, oh, this guy's stealing valor, and I'm like, does some guy want to tell this guy? Does somebody want to tell him or something like that? And he's like telling me what a nuke did, and he actually said this. I shit you not, Jared. He told me that a machinist make doesn't work in the engine room on a nuclear surface craft. I was like, but who do you think does? I was like, no, it's machinist mates that's in the engine room. I assure you, because it took me I spent 4 years doing it. So that just tells you the fuckery out there when people that wouldn't even, a nuke telling me what a nuke was. Hilarious.
Oh, Steve, it was even worse than that. Not just the response in that thread that you saw from me, but there was another one.
Yeah, you commented on it. Exactly. Yes. I remember
that.
Yes, thank you.
There was another comment that I replied to the guy on that had a link to a Navy.mil site.
Right.
And the first entry on that page of nuclear rates in the Navy was machinist mate.
Go figure, right? I mean, I think they designate him now MMN, but I mean, it's still MM. I mean, MM is MM is MM. And so, yeah, he was trying to tell me, because he said, what was your rate? And I'm like, well, I'm MM1 SWE6. Even though I was frocked. I mean, I never officially got paid for it, but I was frocked it. But, he's like, well, a machinist mate doesn't do nuclear stuff. I'm like, okay. Anyways. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. I appreciate it. Undoomed, always a pleasure, man. We don't talk enough. I get to watch your stuff when you have them, which has been very often lately because I know you're a workaholic. But always loved what you did. I like your input on things.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
I appreciate it immensely. Jared, always a pleasure, my friend, and likewise. By the way, just so somebody somebody the other day was like, "Oh, Jared is all mad at you. He hates you and shit like that." I'm like, really? That's news to me. I was like, really?
There are so many people out there that want to talk about my life as if they're living it with me, and they surprise even me.
I know, right? It's like, this is news to freaking me, man. But anyways, Jared, like I said, I appreciate what you do. I'm going to have to get over to your AT weekly, your Vets Weekly talk. If you guys don't know, he does a weekly thing where people that are vets can go in. And even if you're not a vet, but if you want to talk about vet stuff. And they're always kind of fun and entertaining. You keep them, keep the troops entertained, so to speak, And
then demonetized within the first minute.
You guys are raunchy. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, it's not just raunch. Like I said before, there is no topic off limits.
Yeah, you guys
we will talk politics. We will talk anything. I am an advocate of having conversations, especially about the difficult topics, because if you're afraid to talk about that, then who knows what the other fuckers are going to try to get away with.
Dude, I agree with you, and that's been like my motto, right? I mean, obviously the motto for Non-Sequitur Show is informed opinions are sacred, and there's a reason for that. We talk about what we want, when we want, with whom we want, and whatever reason we want. Anybody else can fuck off. I have topics that are taboo. We have a taboo topic on Sunday. It's going to be on Roe v. Wade, abortion rights, Johnny Depp. It's going to be all the stuff in the news. It's going to be with Jim Jules. I think it's at 5, but we haven't solidified that. I might have a special guest coming in. I don't know yet, so I'm not going to say have hope, but I might have somebody that's a relatively bigger name. But if not, they're going to come in probably next month. They want to join, but it's obviously schedule permitting. But yeah, anything that's topical, I'm not afraid of any of that stuff. I'll talk about anything. The only thing I will not talk about, I will have absolutely nothing ever to do with Holocaust deniers or historical revisionism on any of that. Not a topic I'll ever discuss, nor will I have anybody on that ever wants to talk about that stuff. That's just my own personal choice not to discuss any of those things. And so if somebody else wants to, that's on their channel. I mean, I'm not telling people ever how to do their channel. It's just for me, I will never have that discussion, or that's not something that I ever wanted to even have a debate on. I think that's just, it's too much even for the Non-Sequitur Show. But anything else, yeah, we pretty much will talk about anything. And you guys are very much open like that on your channel as well. I respect that. And also you do a show with Leon. And so Leon, promote yourself before we end this.
I have nothing really to promote. I mean, if you want to come into the server and just watch some of the shit, that's fine. Other than that, just go to Veterans Talk Weekly and Canal with them all.
Yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, it really is. I need to pop in more, and I apologize not. It's just people know I am working now. I do asset protection, and so I have to work on my schedule. I do get my schedule at least a week to 2 weeks out, and then I'm going to formulate how to do this and my own channel in the interims. Just to let you guys know. Look, I do have business cards now. I'm not going to put the full information, but I got business cards. Look at the Non-Sequitur Show. Yay! glossy. But I have a special.
Oh my God.
I have a special email that I have for this that I haven't put out anywhere. And what I'm going to do is when I give these cards out, when I go places stuff like that, and people email me with that account, it shows the effectiveness of having a business card or so. Is that smart?
All right.
Yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, join us Sunday when we talk about trials and tribulations with going on with the court system with SCOTUS, talking about Roe v. Wade potentially being overturned in the federal level. Kick back to the states. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case, which has been mind-blowing. I don't know if you guys have been following that, but holy Christ. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the old saying goes, if you have a big problem, you want to make it worse, involve lawyers.
Yeah, and people know I've already, I have a bunch of lawyers because of legal stuff, and it sucks. It really does, because trying to get justice is not easy through the legal system. The legal system is not designed to get justice. The legal system is designed to basically profit lawyers and to make things as difficult as possible, because it is a pain in the ass. So,
yeah.
All right, with that, I'm going to wrap it up, guys, and I will see you Sunday. And I appreciate it, guys. Everything you do, want to become a patron again, link in the video description. Everybody who joins Patreon, from my heart, I really do appreciate it. I'm trying to keep the Patreon from this channel separate from my own channel, because my own channel, I'm doing philosophy, I'm doing science, I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff there. And on this channel, if you just want to support just the Non-Sequitur Show, become a patron. And with that, good night.